Hey there, thanks for joining me today. Last week we dove headfirst into the world of comics. But there's so much more to this universe than just trying to decide what to read first. Today we're going to crack open the pages and explore a comic from the inside. It's the sequel nobody saw coming. Today we're going beyond the basics. I'm Mark, and this is Comic Book Revival. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who watched my first video. I'm kind of blown away by the response. You guys are the best. And if you haven't seen it yet, I highly suggest you stop this video, go back, find it. It looks like this, and watch that video first. Okay, we are going to crack open the pages of this comic in just a minute, but before we do, let's discuss some terminology. After all, if somebody tells you they just scored a high-grade Silver Age key, you want to be able to celebrate their win with them, right? So what is a key issue anyways? A key issue is a comic where something significant happens. It's usually the first appearance of a character, or the death of a character, or the first appearance of a new costume, or some other significant event. Keys are highly sought after by collectors, and are usually priced at a high value. You'll often hear comic book collectors referring to a comic's condition, or its grade. So a comic book's condition refers to its defects, or lack thereof. Defects are things like tears, creases, stains, scuffs, spine rolls, pretty much anything that reduces eye appeal or compromises the physical integrity of the comic. Comics that are professionally graded are assessed by a team of graders and assigned a grade based on a 10-point number system. The fewer the defects, the higher the grade. The decision to collect graded comics or not is a personal one. I'm taking an online course on comic book grading right now for my own personal interest, so I'll be sure to share with you what I learn in a future video. Another word you might hear thrown around a lot amongst collectors is variant. As the name suggests, a variant is a comic book that comes in multiple cover variations, each with its own unique cover art. And while variants can be exciting for comic book collectors, they've also sparked a little bit of controversy within the comic book community. Some collectors purchase variants solely for investment purposes. This leads to speculation and hoarding, which can artificially drive up the prices. And some critics argue that comic book publishers intentionally produce multiple variants for the purpose of increasing sales and profits. Despite all this, though, variants remain very popular with collectors. I kind of sit right in the middle with all this. I do collect variants because I'm a total simp for a cool comic book cover, but I also resent the overpriced value of some of the higher end variants. Let me know what you guys think about variants in the comments below. Over time, comics have become categorized by specific eras or ages based on when they were published. Exact dates differ slightly depending who you ask. It's kind of loosey-goosey, but here's how I interpret the ages. Golden Age started in 1938 and went to about 1960. These are some of the earliest published comics, and they offer simple, straightforward storytelling. The Silver Age started in 1960, 1961, and went to 1970. Silver Age comics have a little more complex storytelling, and there was an increased use of sci-fi elements. Bronze Age comics were from 1970, 71 to about 1985. These comics are notable for having darker, more mature themes and characters. And the Modern Age covers 1986 to present. Modern comics have a much more diverse range of themes, including the deconstruction of familiar superhero tropes. Okay, the time has come. Let's crack open a comic and break it down. Okay, so let's break this comic down and take a look at its components. The first thing you notice is the cover. It has, of course, some very bold and dynamic artwork. We see the title of the comic book. In this case, it's The Amazing Spider-Man. The publisher information, the price, the issue number, all that stuff is right front and center, right where you can see it. In this case, this is Amazing Spider-Man number 66, and it was 12 cents when it came out in 1968. And we even get, you don't get this often, but we even get a little title of the story. In this case, this is called The Madness of Mysterio. This is something I used to really like with the older, Silver Age and even some of the Bronze Age comics, how they would, they'd have this kind of dramatic flair where they title the story right on the cover. It almost looks like a movie poster. I always thought that was really cool. So let's dive in. The first page, we have a splash page. And a splash page is a full page illustration that's usually used to introduce a story. Sometimes you find it in the middle of a comic as well if they want to emphasize a dramatic moment. And it's a technique used to grab the reader's attention and create a strong visual impact. And you can almost think of it as the opening shot of a movie. Something big and bold and just establishes the story. Panels are frames that contain the images and the text. They can vary in size and shape to convey different emotions or pacing. As you see here, this flashback of Mysterio remembering his last encounter with Spider-Man, the panel has a thought bubble line work around it. And this is used for emphasis to demonstrate that he's remembering something or that he's thinking about something. Okay, let's move on. So this space in between the panels is referred to as the gutter. And what it basically does is it represents the passage of time or just a change in a scene. Speech bubbles, as you see all throughout this page, are used to just communicate the character's dialogue. And thought bubbles are kind of the same thing, except they show a character's inner thoughts. And there's quite a few on this page, as you can see. Thought bubbles are kind of an older technique used by comic book creators. You don't see thought bubbles a lot in modern comics. A lot of modern comics, they lend themselves more to a voiceover style of storytelling. So you might see a narration box, maybe at the top of the panel or at the bottom of the panel, with some text, which is meant to just convey the character's thoughts in more of a voiceover style. Sound effects, like this one, are represented by special typography or symbols. They're meant to convey sounds or actions in a dramatic way. So I don't feel like I really need to tell you how to read comics, but it's pretty user intuitive. But basically the idea is left to right and top to bottom, just like a regular book. As you're reading, examine the panels, note the size and shape and composition of the panels. They can indicate the importance of a scene or the emotions of the characters, or even the pace of the story. And as far as what you should be taking notice of, for myself personally, I usually take in the artwork first and then I read the dialogue. And sometimes I'll read a page and I'll go back to the top and kind of reread it just to pull all the context out of what the story is and what the writer is trying to tell me. And as we continue, we get to the end. And we end the comic on a cliffhanger with another splash page, giving us a dramatic finish to this chapter of the story and letting us know that Mysterio will be back in the next issue and the story will continue there. And that is basically the components of a comic book. Okay, before we wrap up, let's talk about protecting your comics. Make sure you store them upright, away from direct sunlight, moisture, and extreme temperatures. And investing in acid-free bags and backing boards like these will help you preserve your collection for years to come. And hey, if you have any questions, just drop a comment below or hit me up on Instagram at oldmanyoung. That's oldmanyoung with a 0, not an O. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, and Hulk smash that bell. Take care, guys. I will see you all next time.